She found a strange key in her husband's wallet and asked what it was. He snatched it from her trembling hand and said, "Never touch this. Promise." She promised. But the next day, after he left, she made a copy, and when she discovered what the key opened, "Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's Stories, your own family story channel. Heavenly God, creator of mercy and strength, I lift every woman into your divine hands. Clothe her with honor that cannot be stolen, courage that never breaks, and love so deep it heals generations. She is the heartbeat of families, the quiet force behind every miracle, the prayer that holds the world together. Protect her body, calm her spirit, and reward her sacrifices with peace, health, and unending dignity. Lord, I place Binta before you now. As she prepares for her nose surgery, surround her with your angels. Guide the hands of the doctors, remove fear from her heart, and let healing flow through every breath she takes. Restore her gently, fully, and safely. Let her rise stronger, covered in your mercy and light. Bless this family watching, especially the women who carry silent battles. May their tears turn to joy, their worries to rest, and their lives to overflowing grace. Keep us united in love today and always. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." The house was quiet when Athena Lucas turned her key in the lock at 9:45 on a Wednesday night in late October. She kicked off her black heels in the foyer, feeling every one of her 42 years in her aching feet. The visit to her mother's house had been another exhausting disaster. Beverly Lucas had been drunk again, slurring through apologies Athena had heard 1,000 times before, promising this time would be different, swearing she'd get sober tomorrow. After 2 hours of watching her mother stumble through her filthy apartment reeking of cheap vodka and broken promises, Athena had given up and driven home early, craving the comfort of her own bed and her husband's strong arms. Andrew's silver Honda sat in the driveway under the porch light. Good. He was home. Athena climbed the stairs slowly, her hands sliding along the polished banister they'd picked out together when they bought this house 12 years ago. She didn't want to wake him if he'd already fallen asleep. He'd been working late all week on the new library project, coming home exhausted and distracted. Their bedroom door stood slightly ajar at the end of the hallway, warm lamplight spilling across the hardwood floor. She smiled despite her exhaustion. He'd left the light on for her like he always did. She pushed the door open. The world stopped turning. Andrew was in their bed. In the bed where they'd made love on their wedding night 15 years ago, champagne drunk and laughing. In the bed where they'd held each other through her father's sudden heart attack, Andrew's steady heartbeat the only thing keeping Athena from falling apart completely. In the bed where Athena had cried herself to sleep during 3 devastating miscarriages, Andrew's arms wrapped around her in the dark, whispering that they'd be okay, they'd get through it together, they had each other. He wasn't alone. A woman lay beside him, her long red hair spread across Athena's pillow like spilled blood. Young, maybe 25 at most. Beautiful in that effortless way young women are before life and disappointment etch themselves into their faces. She wore nothing but Andrew's old college t-shirt, the one Athena had borrowed 100 times over the years. The woman was laughing at something Andrew had just whispered in her ear, her face lit up with joy and intimacy. Andrew's hand traced the curve of the woman's bare shoulder, his fingers moving with practiced familiarity, like he'd touched her skin 1,000 times before and knew exactly how to make her shiver. "I love you," Andrew murmured, his voice soft and tender and alive in a way Athena hadn't heard in years. Maybe ever. The way he used to sound when they first started dating, when everything was new and electric and full of possibility. The woman giggled and kissed his neck, her lips lingering against his skin. "Love you more, baby." "Impossible," Andrew whispered, pulling her closer. Athena's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe with both hands, her fingernails digging into the painted wood hard enough to crack her fresh manicure. Her whole body had gone completely numb and burning at the same time, ice water and liquid fire warring under her skin. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. She was still at her mother's apartment, passed out on the couch, trapped in some alcohol-induced nightmare, but the wood was solid under her fingers. The carpet was soft under her stockinged feet. The scene before her didn't waver or dissolve. A sound escaped her throat, small, broken, inhuman, the kind of noise a wounded animal makes when it knows it's dying. They froze mid-kiss. Andrew's head whipped around toward the door, his eyes going impossibly wide. The color drained from his face in an instant, pleasure and contentment transforming into pure, undiluted horror. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Athena!" She ran, down the stairs, her hip slamming hard into the banister, pain shooting through her side, through the foyer, her shoulder knocking over the umbrella stand they'd bought in Italy on their 10th anniversary trip. Out the front door into the cool October night, the wind cutting through her thin silk blouse. Her hands shook so violently she could barely get her car key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and she threw the gear into reverse, her tires screaming against the asphalt driveway. In her rearview mirror, she saw Andrew running out the front door, shirtless, shouting her name. She gunned the accelerator and peeled onto the street, leaving him standing barefoot in the driveway, getting smaller and smaller until he disappeared. She drove with no destination, no plan, no thought beyond getting away from that house, that bedroom, that image. The image that was now burned permanently into her brain like a brand. Andrew's hand on that woman's skin. The intimacy in his voice when he said, "I love you," to someone who wasn't his wife. The way they'd looked at each other like Athena didn't exist, had never existed, was nothing more than an inconvenient obstacle to be worked around. She screamed until her throat was raw and bleeding, her voice cracking and breaking like everything inside her. Tears poured down her face so thick and fast she could barely see the road, the highway lights blurred into streaks of gold. She didn't know where she was going, didn't care. 45 minutes later, she found herself pulled over on the shoulder of Route 9, great heaving sobs shaking her entire body so hard the car rocked. Other vehicles rushed past in the darkness, their headlights cutting through her tears for brief moments before disappearing, everyone going somewhere with purpose, while Athena sat alone in the dark, with the shattered remains of her entire life scattered around her. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She pulled it out with trembling hands. Andrew's face smiled at her from the screen, the photo from their trip to Mexico 3 years ago, when they'd renewed their vows on the beach and promised to love each other forever. She threw the phone into the passenger seat and watched it light up again and again and again. 15 calls, 20, 30. The phone kept ringing. 3 hours passed in a blur before Athena found herself at a dingy gas station somewhere she didn't recognize. She had no memory of driving there. The flickering fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as she stumbled out of the car on shaking legs and made her way to the bathroom. The door stuck. She had to throw her shoulder against it twice before it opened with a grinding screech. The bathroom mirror was cracked down the middle, splitting her reflection into 2 broken pieces. The woman staring back at her was a stranger, eyes swollen nearly shut, the lids puffy and red, black mascara rivers cutting through her foundation, pooling in the lines around her mouth. Lipstick smeared across her chin like a wound, hair disheveled, standing up in places where she'd been pulling at it. 15 years of blind, stupid trust, shattered in a single image she would never, ever be able to unsee. "He doesn't get to destroy you," Athena whispered to her fractured reflection. Her voice came out hoarse and damaged, barely recognizable. "He doesn't get to win." She turned on the faucet. The water ran rust-colored for several seconds before clearing. She splashed her face again and again, the cold water shocking against her burning skin, washing away the makeup and tears and snot until her face was bare and numb. In the main store, a tired-looking clerk with acne scars carefully didn't make eye contact as Athena bought a bottle of water and a pack of tissues. He'd probably seen plenty of crying women at this gas station in the middle of nowhere at 1 in the morning. She was just another broken person passing through. Athena got back in her car, drank half the bottle of water in one long swallow, and drove home. She had nowhere else to go. The house was completely dark when she pulled into the driveway 2 hours later. Andrew's car was gone. She walked up to the front door on autopilot, her body moving while her mind stayed frozen in that moment in the doorway, watching her husband kiss another woman in their marriage bed. Inside, the house was silent and cold. The umbrella stand still lay on its side in the foyer, their wedding photo face down on the floor where it had fallen, the glass cracked in a spiderweb pattern across Andrew's smiling face. Athena climbed the stairs one slow step at a time, her hand gripping the banister for support. Their bedroom door stood open, waiting. The bed was empty now, but rose petals covered the sheets where two bodies had been lying 3 hours ago. Red roses, like the ones Andrew had given her on their very first date 17 years ago, when he'd shown up at her apartment nervous and sweet, holding a bouquet and asking if she'd give him a chance. A note lay on her pillow in Andrew's familiar handwriting, the letters big and rushed. "I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. I love you more than anything. Please don't leave me." Athena looked at those words and felt something crack deep inside her chest. Not her heart breaking. That had already happened in the doorway, watching her husband love someone else. This was something different. Something harder, colder, sharper. This was the death of the woman she used to be. She gathered the sheets carefully, rose petals and all, carried them downstairs to the garage and shoved them deep into the garbage can. Let them rot with the rest of the trash. Back upstairs, she stripped the mattress completely bare, then pulled fresh linens from the hallway closet and remade the bed with mechanical precision, hospital corners tight and perfect. She took a shower so hot her skin turned bright red, scrubbing every inch of her body until it hurt, trying to wash away the feeling of contamination, of violation. Her bedroom, her bed, her marriage, all of it tainted now, ruined. When she finally crawled between the clean sheets, her phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. She picked it up and turned it on. 43 missed calls, 27 text messages, all from Andrew. She read them one by one, her face expressionless. "Baby, please come home. Let me explain. It didn't mean anything. She's nobody. I made a terrible mistake. Please answer me. I love you so much. I can't lose you. Please, Athena. I'm begging you. Just talk to me. Where are you? Are you safe? Please, baby." On and on and on. The words of a panicked man watching his comfortable life slip through his fingers. Athena turned off her phone and placed it face down on the nightstand. She lay back against the pillows and stared at the ceiling, watching shadows from the streetlight outside move across the plaster in slow patterns. She didn't sleep, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them together, heard his voice saying, "I love you," to someone else, watched her entire marriage, 15 years of her life, revealed as the lie it had always been. How long had this been going on? Weeks, months, years? How many times had he touched that woman and then come home and touched Athena with the same hands? How many times had he lied to her face? How many times had Athena been the fool? When dawn finally broke through the curtains, weak grey light flooding the room, Athena got out of bed and walked to the bathroom mirror. The stranger from the gas station was still there, but her eyes had changed overnight. Something new lived in them now, something that hadn't been there yesterday. Rage, pure, clean, focused. And underneath the rage, something even more powerful, the absolute certainty that Andrew Donald had made the biggest mistake of his pathetic life. Chapter 2. The Family Who Laughed. Friday evening arrived like an execution date. Athena stood in her walk-in closet at 5:30, staring at her reflection in the full-length mirror Andrew had installed for her last Christmas. The black dress hung perfectly on her frame, elegant and composed, the kind of expensive simplicity that whispered old money and good taste. Pearl earrings her grandmother had left her, hair pulled back in a flawless chignon, makeup applied with the precision of a woman who'd been perfecting the art for 25 years. No one looking at her would know that the woman wearing this dress hadn't slept more than 3 hours in the past 2 days, that she'd barely eaten anything except coffee and crackers, that every single breath felt like swallowing broken glass. Andrew's parents hosted dinner the first Friday of every month without fail. Rain, shine, holiday, apocalypse, Patricia and Harold Donald expected their family at their table at 7 o'clock sharp. Missing it meant questions Athena wasn't ready to answer. Going meant sitting across from Andrew and pretending her entire world hadn't imploded 3 days ago. She chose pretending. Andrew had come home Thursday morning at dawn, his key turning in the lock, waking Athena from the half-sleep she'd finally fallen into around 5. She'd listened to his footsteps on the stairs, slow and hesitant, and had stayed perfectly still in bed with her eyes closed. He'd stood in the bedroom doorway for a long time, just breathing. Then he'd walked to her side of the bed and dropped to his knees on the carpet, his hand reaching out to touch her arm. "Athena, baby, please wake up. Please look at me." She'd opened her eyes and looked at him with zero expression. His face had been destroyed, eyes red and swollen, stubble covering his jaw, his expensive shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in his car, which he probably had. "It meant nothing," he'd whispered, his voice cracking. "I swear to God, baby, she's nobody. Just a stupid, terrible mistake. Please, I'll do anything. I love you so much. I can't lose you. Please." Athena had stared at him for a long moment, this man she'd loved since she was 27 years old, and felt absolutely nothing. The numbness had settled into her bones overnight like frost, freezing everything soft and warm inside her into something hard and unmovable. "Get up," she'd said quietly. "You look pathetic." "Athena, we have dinner at your parents' house tomorrow night," she'd continued in that same flat voice. 7 o'clock. "Don't be late, don't embarrass me, and sleep in the guest room from now on." Relief had flooded his face like sunrise. He'd actually smiled through his tears, thinking she was forgiving him, thinking this meant she'd decided to move past it and save their marriage. He didn't understand that Athena was simply too empty to do anything else yet, that she was operating on autopilot while her brain slowly processed the nuclear bomb that had gone off in her life. "Thank you," he'd breathed, grabbing her hand and kissing it. "Thank you, baby. I'll make this right. I promise. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right." She'd pulled her hand away and gotten out of bed. "The guest room, Andrew. Now." He'd left, still looking grateful. Now, 40 hours later, Athena applied lipstick with a steady hand and studied herself one final time. Perfect, composed, unshakable. No one would know she was dying inside. Andrew drove them to his parents' house in silence, his hands gripping the steering wheel too tight, his eyes darting toward her every few seconds, like he expected her to explode. She stared out the passenger window and said nothing. Patricia and Harold Donald lived in a massive colonial in the wealthiest part of town, the kind of house that screamed success and superiority. Andrew had grown up in this house, raised by a mother who believed in appearances above all else, and a father who'd never told his son he loved him, but made sure everyone knew how much money he had. They pulled into the circular driveway behind David's Range Rover. Andrew's younger brother was already here with his wife Emma, probably inside telling Patricia all about David's latest promotion and Emma's charity work and how perfect their life was. "Ready?" Andrew asked quietly, his voice tight with nerves. Athena looked at him with cold eyes. "Are you?" He flinched and got out of the car. Patricia opened the door before they reached it, her thin frame wrapped in designer clothes and her face pulled tight from too many procedures. "There you are, right on time as always. Come in, come in." She air-kissed Athena's cheeks, her perfume overwhelming and expensive. "Athena, dear, you look exhausted. Are you feeling well?" "Long week," Athena said smoothly, "but I'm fine." "Well, you worked too hard at that little job of yours," Patricia said with a dismissive wave. Athena managed a non-profit helping abuse survivors find housing and employment. Patricia had never understood why Athena wasted her time with those people when she could have spent her days shopping and having lunch. Inside the formal dining room, David and Emma sat at the already set table, both looking glossy and perfect like showroom mannequins. Harold stood at the bar mixing drinks, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier. "Andrew, Athena!" David stood and clapped his brother on the shoulder. "Glad you made it. Thought you might be too busy with your new library project to grace us with your presence. Something flickered in David's eyes. Something knowing. Something cruel. Emma smiled, too wide. Athena, it's been too long. You look tired, actually. Everything okay? The table was set with Patricia's finest china, crystal glasses catching the light, everything arranged with military precision. Athena took her seat across from Andrew, her back straight, her face a perfect mask. Patricia served her famous roast, the one she'd been making for 40 years and never let anyone forget it. Conversation flowed around Athena like water around a stone. David's promotion, Emma's charity gala, Harold's golf tournament, Patricia's book club. Andrew sat silent, pushing food around his plate, his leg bouncing under the table. Then Patricia set down her wineglass and looked directly at Athena with those sharp, calculating eyes. Athena, dear, you really do look dreadful. Marriage is hard work, isn't it? She smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. You have to keep your husband interested, keep yourself up. A man needs to feel wanted, desired. It's a wife's job to make sure he doesn't go looking elsewhere. The table went silent. Athena felt something crack inside her chest, a sound like ice breaking under too much weight. David laughed nervously. Mom, I'm just saying, Patricia continued, warming to her subject, men are visual creatures. They need excitement, passion. You can't just let yourself go and expect them to stay satisfied. Can you, Harold? Harold grunted into his scotch, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Emma giggled behind her napkin. Andrew stared at his plate like a coward, his face bright red, saying absolutely nothing. Athena looked at this woman, this family, these people she'd spent 15 years trying to please and impress and love. She looked at Andrew, who wouldn't even defend her, who was letting his mother humiliate her at the dinner table while he sat there mute and ashamed. And something inside Athena didn't just crack, it shattered completely. She stood up slowly, her chair scraping loud against the hardwood floor. Every eye snapped to her. You're absolutely right, Patricia, Athena said quietly, her voice steady and cold. Marriage is incredibly hard work, especially when your husband fucks a 25-year-old redhead in the bed where you've slept together for 15 years. The room detonated. Patricia's wineglass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the table, red wine splashing across the white tablecloth. Harold choked on his scotch, coughing violently. David's mouth dropped open. Emma gasped dramatically, her hand flying to her throat. Andrew jumped to his feet. Athena! She turned to him with eyes like winter. What, Andrew? Should I keep your dirty secrets? Should I smile and nod while your mother tells me I'm not enough, that I let myself go, that I drove you to cheat? You don't understand, he started. I understand perfectly. Athena cut him off, her voice rising. I understand that I came home Wednesday night and found you in our bed with another woman. I understand that you whispered I love you to her while I stood in the doorway watching my marriage die. I understand everything. She turned to Patricia, who'd gone pale. Your son is a liar and a cheat, and you raised him to be exactly that. Congratulations. How dare you? Patricia sputtered. How dare I? Athena laughed, wild and broken and free. How dare he? How dare you? Sitting here lecturing me about keeping my husband interested when he's been screwing his secretary for God knows how long. David made a strangled sound. His secretary? Don't act surprised, Athena snapped at him. You knew, didn't you? You all knew. I could see it in your faces when I walked in. Poor pathetic Athena, the last to know her husband was making a fool of her. That's not, Emma started. Save it, Athena cut her off. You're not my friend, Emma. You never were. You just liked having someone to feel superior to. She grabbed her purse from the back of her chair and looked at each of them one by one. Patricia, face purple with rage and humiliation. Harold, still coughing into his napkin. David, looking uncomfortable. Emma, eyes wide with shock and something that looked like satisfaction. And Andrew, standing there useless and pathetic, unable to even meet her eyes. Enjoy your dinner, Athena said softly. I hope it chokes you." She walked out with her head held high, her heels clicking across the marble foyer. Behind her, chaos erupted, Patricia's voice rising in fury, Andrew shouting, glass breaking. She stepped out into the cool evening air and found her mother's beat-up sedan parked on the street, Beverly behind the wheel. Athena climbed into the passenger seat, her hands shaking so badly she could barely fasten her seatbelt. Beverly looked at her daughter, clear-eyed and sober for the first time in months. "That's my girl," she said quietly, pride thick in her voice. She started the car and drove Athena home, and for the first time in 2 days, Athena felt like she could breathe. Chapter 3. The mistress has a name, Lilac Asher. Athena stared at the name on her laptop screen, her coffee going cold on the kitchen table beside her. Saturday morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, beautiful and mocking. The house was empty. Andrew had tried to come home last night after the dinner disaster, but found the locks changed and his belongings in boxes on the front porch. Lilac Asher, 25 years old, secretary at Lawrence and Associates Architecture, the firm where Andrew had worked for 12 years. It had taken Athena exactly 20 minutes on social media to find her. The woman from her bedroom stared back at her from a profile picture, stunning, young, everything Athena wasn't anymore. Long red hair, bright green eyes, a smile full of white teeth, and the confidence of someone who'd never watched her body betray her through 3 miscarriages, never seen age creep across her face in the mirror. Athena scrolled through Lilac's photos with trembling hands, each image a knife sliding between her ribs. 6 months ago, Lilac's feed showed a completely different life. Cheap apartments with peeling wallpaper, thrift store clothes, posts asking friends for money to make rent, begging for someone to hire her, complaining about being broke and desperate, comments from friends saying, "Hang in there and it'll get better." Then Andrew appeared in the background of a photo from a company party in May. Just his shoulder, his hand holding a drink, barely visible, but he was there. After that, everything changed. Designer handbags appeared, expensive restaurants, beach vacations in the Bahamas with captions like "Blessed beyond measure" and "Living my best life." New clothes, new jewelry, new everything. The apartment posts disappeared, replaced by photos from a high-rise with city views. Athena clicked on a photo from 2 weeks ago, Lilac in a red dress that probably cost more than Athena's monthly salary, posing at some fancy restaurant downtown. The caption read, "Date night with my love," followed by a heart emoji. The comment section was full of friends gushing, "You look amazing! Who's the lucky guy? Living that luxury life, girl. You deserve it all." Lilac had responded to that second comment with a winking emoji and "He's very special. More soon." Athena's stomach churned. She ran to the bathroom and threw up the little bit of coffee she'd managed to drink, her body heaving until there was nothing left. She rinsed her mouth and returned to her laptop, unable to stop torturing herself. How long had this been going on? The photos suggested at least 6 months, maybe longer. 6 months of Andrew living a double life. Coming home to Athena, kissing her goodnight, making love to her. When had they last made love? 3 months ago, 4. Then sneaking off to this young, beautiful woman who made him feel alive in ways his tired, middle-aged wife obviously couldn't. Athena's phone buzzed. Rachel Chen, her supposed best friend of 10 years. "Heard about last night. Are you okay? Want us to come over?" Us. That meant Rachel and Nia Park, the trio that had met in a book club a decade ago and been inseparable ever since. Or so Athena had thought. "Sure," she texted back. "Come now." They arrived 40 minutes later with wine and sympathy faces. Rachel with her perfect hair and designer yoga pants. Nia in head-to-toe black like she was attending a funeral. Athena's funeral. They sat in the living room, the wine bottle open between them, and both women looked at Athena with pity that felt more like judgment. "We can't believe Andrew would do this," Rachel said, her voice dripping with false concern. "You must be devastated." "I am," Athena said flatly. Nia leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Can I be honest with you? As your friend. Warning bells went off in Athena's head, but she nodded. Maybe you should have seen this coming, Nia said gently. You've been so focused on your job, your mother, everything except Andrew. Men need attention. They need to feel desired. My husband never strays because I work for it. I keep myself up, make sure he knows he's my priority. Athena stared at her. Are you seriously blaming me right now? No, Rachel jumped in quickly. But Nia has a point. Marriage takes effort from both people. You've been letting yourself go a little, honey. When's the last time you dressed up for Andrew, surprised him, made him feel special? Something cold slithered through Athena's chest. I had 3 miscarriages. I run a non-profit that helps abuse survivors. I take care of my alcoholic mother. I'm sorry I didn't have energy left over to put on lingerie and play sex kitten for my husband every night. They both flinched at her tone. We're just trying to help, Nia said quietly. You asked us here. No, Athena said, standing up. I asked my friends here. But you're not my friends, are you? You're vultures circling a dying animal, waiting to pick the bones clean so you can feel better about your own lives. Athena, Rachel started, get out. What? Get out of my house. Athena's voice echoed off the walls, loud and fierce. Get out now before I throw you out. They left quickly, offended and whispering to each other, probably already texting other people about how Athena had lost her mind. The door slammed behind them. Athena sat alone in the sudden silence and realized with brutal clarity she had no one. Andrew had been her everything for 15 years. Her husband, her best friend, her partner. She'd let other friendships fade, had kept people at arm's length because she had Andrew, and that was enough. Rachel and Nia had never really been her friends. They'd been women who liked having someone to condescend to, someone whose life wasn't quite as perfect as theirs, someone who made them feel superior. Her phone buzzed again. Her mother. Baby girl, you need me to come over? Athena almost laughed. Beverly, asking if Athena needed help. Beverly, who'd been drunk for most of Athena's childhood, who'd missed her high school graduation and her college graduation and her wedding because she was passed out in some bar. But Beverly had shown up last night, sober, clear-eyed, ready. No, Mom. I'm okay. Liar. But I'll leave you alone if you need space. I love you, Athena. More than I've ever been able to show, and that man is a goddamn fool. Tears pricked Athena's eyes. Thanks, Mom. She hung up and returned to her laptop, to Lilac Ash's perfect, stolen life. And in the darkness of her empty house, surrounded by the wreckage of her marriage and the betrayal of everyone she'd trusted, Athena felt something new ignite in her chest. Not despair, not grief, rage. Pure, focused, diamond-hard rage. Andrew had taken everything from her, her dignity, her trust, her sense of safety in the world. He'd humiliated her in front of his family, let his mother blame her for his cheating, stood there like a coward while Athena defended herself alone. And this girl, this gold-digging child, had helped him do it, had climbed into Athena's bed, worn Athena's husband's gifts, lived a luxury life funded by Athena's 15 years of love and sacrifice. Athena pulled out her phone and called the number she'd been avoiding for 2 days. Her cousin Marcus was a divorce attorney, one of the best in the state. Marcus, it's Athena. I need to file for divorce, and I need to destroy him. Her cousin's voice came through warm and certain. Tell me everything. Athena started talking, and for the first time since Wednesday night, she felt something like hope. Chapter 4. Thanksgiving Day Massacre. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Athena sent out invitations. Andrew received his at the cheap motel where he'd been staying since she changed the locks. A formal card in elegant script. You are cordially invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the home you used to share, Thursday, November 28th, 2 p.m. Attendance is mandatory. He'd called her immediately, panic in his voice. Athena, please, we don't have to do this. We can cancel, just the 2 of us talk, work this out. It's not optional, she'd said calmly. You want to save this marriage? You show up. You face what you did. You eat my food, and you sit at my table and you look me in the eye. Or I call Marcus tomorrow and file papers. Your choice. He'd agreed, defeated. Athena invited everyone. Andrew's parents, Patricia and Harold, despite their fury over her scene at their dinner party. Andrew's brother David and his wife Emma, who'd whispered about Athena's outburst to anyone who'd listen. Rachel and Naya, who'd shown their true colors but would come anyway out of morbid curiosity. Her mother Beverly, who'd stayed sober for 27 days now and counting. And she invited one person Andrew didn't know about. Athena cooked for 3 solid days. Her grandmother's recipes, the ones passed down through 4 generations of strong Lucas women. The turkey that had graced holiday tables since Athena was a little girl. Her great-aunt's famous sweet potato casserole, cornbread dressing that took 12 hours to make properly, collard greens simmered low and slow with ham hocks, macaroni and cheese baked until the top was crispy and golden. This wasn't just a meal, this was a declaration of war. Thanksgiving Day dawned cold and clear. Athena woke up at 5 in the morning in her empty bed, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. Baby, when life breaks you, you stand up, dust yourself off, and you set a table fit for queens. Then you make everyone else eat their shame. She dressed carefully. A deep burgundy dress that hugged her curves, the ones she'd always been self-conscious about until this moment. Gold jewelry, her grandmother's pearls, hair down and natural, the way she used to wear it before Andrew said he preferred it pulled back. Makeup bold and fierce. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a different woman than 3 weeks ago. This woman had fire in her eyes. The guests started arriving at 2 o'clock. Patricia and Harold came first, their faces tight with disapproval. I don't know what you're playing at, Athena, Patricia said coldly, but this is inappropriate. It's Thanksgiving, Athena said with a bright smile. Nothing inappropriate about family gathering for a meal. David and Emma arrived next, looking uncomfortable. Rachel and Nia came together, their eyes darting around like they expected a bomb to go off. Andrew showed up last, thin and haggard, dark circles under his eyes. He'd lost weight. Good. They all settled into the formal dining room, the table laid out with Athena's best china, crystal glasses catching the November sunlight streaming through the windows. The smell of turkey and cornbread filled the house, rich and welcoming despite the tension crackling in the air. Beverly Lucas walked in from the kitchen carrying the turkey on a platter, her hands steady, her eyes clear and focused. She'd dressed nicely for once, in a simple blue dress Athena had bought her last week. She looked more like herself than Athena had seen in years. Mama, Athena said softly, surprised. I'm helping, Beverly said firmly. That's what mothers do. They served the meal in silence. Athena carved the turkey with practiced precision, her hands steady. Every dish was perfect, plated beautifully, the kind of meal that belonged in a magazine. Everyone ate quietly, the only sounds forks against china and awkward throat clearing. The food was incredible. Even Patricia couldn't hide her surprise at how delicious everything was. Halfway through the meal, Beverly stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the hardwood. She lifted her glass of sparkling cider. I want to make a toast, she announced, her voice loud and clear. Everyone froze. To my daughter, Beverly continued, her eyes fierce and proud, who married a dog and loved him like a king for 15 years, who gave everything she had to a man who didn't deserve her morning breath, much less her heart. Patricia gasped. Andrew went white. And to that dog, Beverly pointed directly at Andrew, who brought his bitch into my daughter's bed while she was taking care of her drunk mother, who humiliated the best woman he'll ever know, who threw away a treasure for garbage. How dare you? Harold started. Shut up, Beverly snapped at him. I'm not done. And to this family, she gestured around the table, who blamed Athena for not keeping her man interested instead of raising him to be faithful. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. The room exploded into chaos. Patricia stood up, shaking with rage. This is outrageous. We're leaving. David laughed nervously, his face bright red. Emma pulled out her phone, probably to text everyone she knew. Rachel and Nia stared at their plates, faces burning. Andrew ran outside, his hand fumbling for his phone. Athena followed him calmly, her heels clicking across the back patio. He stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear, his whole body tense. "Baby, I can't do this anymore," he was saying, his voice desperate and pleading. "This is insane. My whole family is here watching me fall apart. You have to understand, I need you. I can't keep doing this. Either she agrees to a divorce or we need to stop. I love you, but this is killing me. Please." A woman's voice came through the phone, loud enough for Athena to hear, young, angry, scared. "Then leave her. You've been saying that for 6 months, Andrew. I'm done waiting. You choose, your wife or me, right now." Athena stepped forward and snatched the phone out of Andrew's hand before he could react. "Lilac," she said calmly into the phone. "This is Athena, Andrew's wife, the woman whose bed you fucked in, the woman whose husband you've been stealing. Come to my house right now. Let's talk face to face. Let's see how brave you are when you're not hiding behind a phone screen." She rattled off the address. Silence on the other end of the line, then, "Who the hell do you think you—" "I think I'm the wife," Athena cut her off, "and you're the mistress. So come over and let's settle this like women, unless you're scared." Another pause, then Lilac's voice came back harder, sharper. "Text me the address again. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The call ended. Athena turned to Andrew, who looked like he might throw up. His face had gone grey, sweat beading on his forehead. "What did you just do?" he whispered. Athena smiled, calm and cold. "I invited her to Thanksgiving dinner. After all, she's part of this family now, isn't she? She should meet everyone." She walked back inside, leaving Andrew frozen on the patio. In the dining room, everyone stared at her as she took her seat. Beverly sat down next to her daughter and squeezed her hand under the table. "She's coming," Athena announced to the room. "Andrew's mistress. She'll be here in about 15 minutes. I thought we should all meet the woman who destroyed my marriage, face to face, as a family." Patricia looked like she might faint. Emma's eyes went wide with shock and something else. Excitement. This was better than any reality show. David shifted uncomfortably. "Athena, maybe this isn't—" "Eat your turkey, David," Athena said pleasantly. "It's getting cold." Exactly 18 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Athena stood up slowly, smoothed down her dress, and walked to the front door. Behind her, she could feel every eye in the house watching. Andrew had come back inside and stood near the dining room entrance, his face the color of old paper. Athena opened the door. Lilac Asher stood on the porch in a designer dress and heels, her red hair perfect, her makeup flawless, beautiful and young and everything Athena wasn't. Up close, she looked even younger than 25, scared too under the attitude. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes darting past Athena to the house behind her. "Well," Athena said quietly, "come in. Everyone's waiting to meet you." And she stepped aside, opening the door to the woman who'd helped destroy her life, inviting her into the house, where Athena had planned to grow old with Andrew, where she dreamed of raising children, where 15 years of marriage had died in a single night. Lilac hesitated for just a moment. Then she lifted her chin, squared her shoulders, and walked inside. The showdown was about to begin. Chapter 5. The Showdown. Lilac Asher walked into Athena's house like she owned it. Her heels clicked across the hardwood foyer, her head held high, her red hair swinging around her shoulders like a shampoo commercial. The designer dress, probably Versace, probably bought with Andrew's money, hugged her young body perfectly. She looked like money and confidence and youth, everything this world told women they should be. But Athena could see through it, could see the slight tremor in Lilac's perfectly manicured hands, the way her eyes darted around nervously, the swallow that betrayed fear underneath the bravado. This girl was terrified. Good. Athena led her into the dining room, where everyone sat frozen like a tableau from a particularly dramatic painting. Patricia clutching her napkin with white knuckles. Harold staring into his wineglass like it held answers. David and Emma leaning forward, phones already out to capture whatever happened next. Rachel and Nia looking between Athena and Lilac like they were watching tennis. Beverly with her arms crossed, a fierce protective energy radiating from her like heat. And Andrew standing against the wall, his face ashen, looking like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Lilac's eyes found him immediately. Something passed between them. Panic, accusation, betrayal. Her confident mask slipped for just a second before she caught herself. "Everyone," Athena said pleasantly, gesturing to Lilac like she was introducing an honored guest, "this is Lilac Asher, Andrew's secretary, and his mistress for the past, what was it, Lilac? 6 months? 7. The room was so silent, Athena could hear Beverly's watch ticking. Lilac's green eyes hardened. She looked at Athena with naked hatred. 6 months, and I'm not his secretary anymore. I'm his girlfriend." Patricia made a strangled sound. Athena laughed, genuine and loud and completely free. "His girlfriend? Is that what he told you? That's precious." "He loves me," Lilac said, her voice rising defensively. She looked at Andrew for support. "Tell her, tell them." Andrew stood mute against the wall, paralyzed. Athena moved into the kitchen, calm and controlled, and pulled off her apron. She hung it carefully on its hook and turned back to study this girl who'd helped destroy her marriage. Young, beautiful, empty. "So you're the one," Athena said quietly, walking back toward Lilac with slow, measured steps. "The upgrade, the newer model. The reason my husband decided 15 years of marriage wasn't worth protecting." Lilac's jaw tightened. "I didn't force him to do anything. He wanted me. He chose me. Did he now?" Athena stopped 3 feet away from her. "Did he choose you when he was making love to me in the bed you later fucked in? Did he choose you when he took me to dinner for our anniversary last month and told me I was the love of his life? Did he choose you when he renewed our vows in Mexico 3 years ago?" Lilac's face flickered with uncertainty. "That was before he met me, before he realized what he was missing." What he was missing? Beverly's voice cut across the room like a whip. "A child who spreads her legs for married men, that's what he was missing." "Who the hell are you?" Lilac snapped at her. "I'm her mother," Beverly said, standing up. "And I'm a drunk and a failure at a lot of things, but even I know better than to sleep with someone's husband." Emma giggled nervously. David elbowed her to shut up. Lilac turned back to Athena, her composure cracking. "You don't understand. Andrew and I have something special, something real. He said his marriage was dead anyway, that you two were just going through the motions, that he hadn't loved you in years." The words hit like bullets, each one finding its mark. Athena felt them pierce her chest, explode in her heart, but she didn't let it show on her face. "Is that what he told you?" she asked softly. "That our marriage was dead?" "Yes," Lilac said triumphantly. "He said you were cold, distant, that you didn't care about him anymore, that you were too busy with your job and your mother to even notice him." Athena looked at Andrew, who had gone from grey to green, sweat running down his temples. "Is that what you said? That I was cold?" He couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "Answer her," Lilac demanded, turning to him. "Tell her the truth." Andrew's voice came out strangled. "I was confused. I didn't mean—" "You told me you were getting a divorce," Lilac interrupted, her voice rising with panic now. "You said it was just a matter of time. You said you loved me and we'd be together as soon as you worked out the details." "I do love you," Andrew started. "Do you?" Athena cut him off. "Because you told me you loved me when you came home Thursday morning begging for forgiveness. You told me she was nobody, a mistake, that you wanted to save our marriage." Lilac's face went white. "What?" "He came home crying," Athena continued, her voice steady and cold. "Got on his knees and begged me not to leave him. Said you meant nothing, said he'd made a terrible mistake and would spend the rest of his life making it up to me." "You're lying," Lilac whispered, but her eyes were already filling with tears. "Am I?" Athena pulled out her phone, scrolled to a text message, and held it up for Lilac to see. Andrew's words from 2 days ago. Baby, I love you so much. Please give me another chance. I'll cut off all contact with her. I'll change jobs. Whatever it takes. You're my everything. Lilac read the message, her face crumbling. She turned to Andrew with betrayal written across every feature. You were playing both of us? No, Andrew pushed off from the wall, his hands up in defense. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. You didn't know. Lilac's voice came out shrill. I've been waiting for you. I quit my job because of the scandal. I defended you to my friends. I've been calling you every day while you've been what? Trying to save your marriage. It's complicated. No, it's not, Lilac screamed. You're a liar. You told me you loved me. You said we'd be together. She advanced on him, her composure completely shattered now, tears streaming down her face, her carefully constructed image falling apart. I gave you everything. I believed you. I do love you. Stop lying. She was sobbing now, her voice breaking. You love your wife. You always have. I was just your midlife crisis. The room had gone completely silent. Even Patricia had stopped clutching her napkin to stare at the scene unfolding. Athena watched it all with a strange detachment, like she was viewing it through glass. This girl had slept with her husband, had helped Andrew betray 15 years of marriage, had laughed in Athena's bed and worn her husband like an accessory. But looking at her now, crumbling and broken and young and stupid, Athena felt something unexpected. Pity. Lilac, she said quietly. The girl turned to her, mascara running down her face, her careful makeup ruined. He lied to you, Athena continued. I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because it's true. He told you what you wanted to hear so you'd sleep with him, so you'd make him feel young and desirable. And when it got complicated, when I found out he tried to play both sides, keep his wife and keep his mistress, have his cake and eat it too. Lilac stared at her, tears streaming silently now. You're not an upgrade, Athena said, not unkindly. You're a rental, and rentals get returned when the owner is done playing with them. Lilac's face twisted with humiliation and rage. She looked at Andrew with such hatred it could have melted steel. You used me, she whispered. No, he started. You used me, she screamed, and I was stupid enough to believe you actually cared. She grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it and pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. You know what? I hope you two work it out. I hope you stay together forever, because you deserve each other, a liar and a fool. She turned to Athena one last time. Check your bank accounts, all of them, the joint ones, his personal accounts, everything. Athena frowned. What? He gave me his card information 3 months ago, Lilac said with a bitter smile. Full access, said to buy whatever I wanted. So I did. Designer clothes, jewelry, that trip to the Bahamas. All on his dime. And you know what? I've still got the numbers saved. She looked at Andrew. Consider it payment for lying to me. Andrew's face went from green to bone white. Lilac, wait. Go to hell, Andrew, she said flatly. Then she walked out, her heels clicking across the floor, the front door slamming behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. The dining room erupted. Patricia stood up, shaking with rage. You've destroyed this family, both of you. This is humiliating. Good, Beverly said calmly. You should be humiliated. You raised a cheat and a liar. How dare you? I dare because it's true, Beverly shot back. Your son is a coward who couldn't keep his pants zipped and blamed his wife for it. Harold finally spoke up. Andrew, is what that girl said true? Did you give her access to your accounts? Andrew collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. I don't know. Maybe. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. Clearly, David muttered. Emma was typing furiously on her phone, probably updating all her friends in real time. Rachel and Nia stood up simultaneously. We should go, Rachel said quickly. Yes, Athena agreed. You should. They fled, whispering to each other as they grabbed their coats. Patricia glared at Athena. Are you happy now? You've made a spectacle of this entire family." "I didn't make the spectacle," Athena said calmly. "Andrew did when he brought his mistress into our bed. I just made sure everyone saw it clearly." She walked to the sideboard and picked up a perfect pumpkin pie, still warm from the oven. "Anyone want dessert?" Beverly laughed, loud and genuine. "I'll take a slice, baby girl." Athena served her mother a piece of pie, and they sat down at the table together, while Andrew's family stared at them in shock. Patricia stormed out, Harold following in her wake. David and Emma left quietly, Emma still on her phone. When the house was finally empty except for Athena and Beverly, they looked at each other across the table. "That was something," Beverly said quietly. "Yes," Athena agreed. "It was." She picked up her fork and took a bite of pie. It was perfect, sweet and spiced, and exactly right. "What now?" her mother asked. Athena looked around her dining room, at the remnants of the meal she'd spent 3 days cooking, at the empty chairs where Andrew's family had sat in judgment, at the space where Lilac Asher had stood and realized she'd been played. "Now," Athena said softly, "now I take everything." And for the first time in 3 weeks, she smiled a real smile. Chapter 6. The Gold Digger's Revenge. 1 week after Thanksgiving, Andrew came home destroyed. Athena was in her home office when she heard his car pull into the driveway. She'd let him back into the house 2 days ago on the condition that he sleep in the guest room and stay out of her way while she figured out what she wanted to do. The truth was, she liked watching him suffer. Liked seeing him walk through this house like a ghost, pale and hollow-eyed, waiting for her verdict on their marriage. She heard the front door open and close, heard his footsteps in the hallway, heavy and slow, then a sound that made her look up from her laptop, sobbing. Andrew stood in the doorway of her office, tears streaming down his face, his whole body shaking. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past week, thinner, grayer, broken. "She took everything," he whispered. Athena leaned back in her chair and studied him with zero sympathy. "What are you talking about?" "Lilac." His voice cracked on her name. "She emptied my personal account, $52,000, gone, and she maxed out my credit cards, another 30,000. I just got the alerts. I'm ruined, Athena. She destroyed me." He collapsed onto the floor, his hands covering his face, his shoulders heaving with sobs that sounded like they were being torn from his chest. Athena felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just a cold, clinical interest, like she was observing an insect under glass. "When did this happen?" "This morning," he choked out. "I went to buy coffee and my card was declined. I checked my accounts and everything was gone. Transferred out yesterday. She cleaned me out completely." He looked up at her with desperate, red-rimmed eyes. "Please, you have to help me. I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm begging you. I can't. I have nothing. She took everything." Athena crossed her arms and looked at this pathetic man on her office floor. The man she'd loved for 17 years. The man who'd promised to love and cherish her forever. The man who'd brought another woman into their bed and then tried to keep them both when he got caught. "Why should I help you?" she asked quietly. "Because I'm your husband," he shouted, desperation making him loud. "Because we took vows, for better or worse." "You broke those vows," Athena said calmly, "the moment you decided Lilac Asher was worth more than our marriage." "I made a mistake. I'm human. People make mistakes." "Sleeping with your secretary isn't a mistake, Andrew. It's a choice. You chose to start the affair. You chose to bring her to our house. You chose to lie to both of us. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions you made over and over again for 6 months." He pushed himself up off the floor, his legs unsteady. "So what? You're just going to let me drown? Watch me lose everything and do nothing?" Athena stood up and walked to her desk drawer. She pulled out a folder and handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked, his hands shaking as he took it. "Bank statements," she said. "From the private account I opened 6 months ago." He flipped it open, his eyes scanning the numbers. His face went white. $180,000. Athena said flatly. That's what my grandmother left me when she died 2 years ago. You never asked how much the inheritance was. You assumed it was maybe 20,000, enough for me to buy a new car or take a vacation. You didn't care enough to ask. Andrew stared at the numbers like they might change if he looked long enough. I've been moving money into that account every month, Athena continued. My salary from the non-profit, the freelance consulting work I do that you never bothered asking about, building my own safety net because some part of me always knew I couldn't trust you completely. Athena, I'm not leaving you broke, Andrew, she cut him off. I'm leaving you exactly what you deserve, nothing. She pulled out another folder and handed it to him. Divorce papers, I'm filing Monday morning. The house is in my name. My grandmother's money bought it, remember? You'll need to be out by the end of the month. He dropped both folders, papers scattering across her office floor like leaves. No, please, we can work this out. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. Please don't leave me. I already left you, Athena said quietly. I left you the moment I walked in on you and her. Everything since then has just been me figuring out the logistics. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. I need to take this. Athena, please. Get out of my office, Andrew. He stood there, tears running down his face, looking pathetic and small. Now, she said firmly. He stumbled out, leaving the scattered papers behind. Athena answered the phone. Hello? Athena Donald? A professional female voice. Speaking. This is Melissa Harding from Lawrence & Associates Architecture. I'm the HR director. I'm calling regarding a complaint filed against Andrew Donald. Athena's heart started beating faster. Go on. Lilac Asher has filed a formal sexual harassment complaint against your husband. She's provided emails, text messages, and testimony from 3 other employees who witnessed inappropriate behavior. Given the severity of the allegations and the evidence provided, we've decided to terminate Mr. Donald's employment effective immediately. We wanted to inform you as his spouse. Athena sat down slowly. I see. Additionally, Ms. Asher is pursuing legal action against the firm for allowing a hostile work environment. This is a very serious situation. I'm sorry to have to deliver this news. Thank you for letting me know, Athena said calmly. She hung up and stared at the wall. Andrew had lost everything in 1 week. His money, his job, his reputation. Everything he'd built over 12 years at that firm, gone because he couldn't keep his hands to himself. She walked to the guest room where Andrew had retreated. He sat on the bed, staring at nothing. You're fired, she said from the doorway. Lilac filed a harassment complaint. They terminated you today. The color drained from his face. What? She's also suing the firm. This is going to get very public, very ugly. Oh God, he whispered. Oh God, no. His phone rang. He answered it automatically. Hello? Athena watched his face crumble as he listened to whoever was on the other end. But Mom, He stopped, listening. His eyes filled with fresh tears. Please don't, Mom. The line went dead. He looked at Athena with devastation written across his face. They're cutting me off, he whispered. My parents. They said I've humiliated the family. My dad called me a disgrace. My mom said, I'm not welcome at their house anymore. He started crying again, great heaving sobs that shook the bed. Athena watched him fall apart and felt absolutely nothing. This was the man who'd held her while she miscarried their first baby, who'd danced with her at their wedding, who'd promised to love her forever. But that man was gone, had maybe never existed at all. This man, this crying, broken stranger, had made his choices, and now he was living with the consequences. I'm going to stay with my mother tonight, Athena said. When I get back tomorrow, I want you gone. Find somewhere else to stay. A motel, your car, your brother's house, I don't care. But you're not sleeping under my roof anymore. She left him sobbing in the guest room and packed a small bag. Called her mother on the way down the stairs. Mom, can I stay with you tonight? Always, baby girl, Beverly said immediately. I'll make up the couch. Athena walked out to her car, threw her bag in the back seat, and drove away from the house where her marriage had died. In her rearview mirror, she could see Andrew standing in the window, watching her leave. She didn't look back. Chapter 7. The Rise of a Phoenix. 2 months later, Athena signed a lease on a small apartment in the arts district downtown. It wasn't much. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, old hardwood floors that creaked when you walked. But it was hers. Every piece of furniture, every decision, every breath of air belonged to her and no one else. She stood in the empty living room on move-in day, her arms wrapped around herself, and felt something she hadn't experienced in years: peace. The divorce papers had been filed. The house was listed for sale. Andrew was living in a cheap motel on Route 9, his life in shambles. Everything he'd built collapsed around him like a house of cards. His parents had disowned him after the harassment lawsuit became public knowledge. His brother David had posted on Facebook, calling him a cheating loser who destroyed his own life. The architecture community in their city was small, and everyone knew what he'd done. Athena had watched it all with detached interest. She'd stopped feeling sorry for him, stopped feeling anything about him at all, except maybe a vague relief that he was no longer her problem. She spent her first day in the new apartment arranging furniture she'd bought herself: a couch from a local consignment shop, a coffee table she'd found at an estate sale, books she'd always wanted to read but never had time for when she was trying to be the perfect wife. She cut her hair short, the long waves that Andrew had loved falling to the salon floor in dark ribbons. The woman in the mirror looked different, stronger, younger somehow, despite everything. That evening, Beverly came over with Chinese takeout and cheap wine. "This place is perfect," her mother said, looking around with approval. "It's very you." "What's me?" Athena asked, unpacking plates. "Independent, strong, beautiful in an understated way that doesn't need anyone else's approval." They ate sitting on the floor, since Athena's dining table hadn't been delivered yet, their backs against the couch, laughing about nothing in particular. "I'm proud of you, baby," Beverly said quietly. "I know I haven't said that enough in your life, but I am. You could have fallen apart, and instead you're standing up." Athena looked at her mother, 62 years old, 5 months sober, clear-eyed and present in a way she hadn't been since Athena was a child. "We're both standing up," she said softly. Beverly squeezed her daughter's hand. The next week, Athena joined a support group at a community church near her new apartment. Women who'd survived abuse, addiction, betrayal. They met Wednesday evenings in a basement room that smelled like coffee and old carpet. The first time Athena walked in, she almost turned around and left. What was she doing here? She wasn't like these women with their stories of violence and addiction and trauma. But then an older woman with kind eyes and silver hair approached her. "First time?" Athena nodded, unable to speak. "I'm Grace," the woman said warmly. "Come sit by me. You're safe here." Athena sat, listened to the other women share their stories. When it came to her turn, she hesitated. "I'm Athena. My husband cheated on me. I found them in our bed. I thought I was dying, but I'm not. I'm just here." "That's enough," Grace said gently. "Being here is enough." Over the next month, Athena kept coming back, kept sharing little pieces of her story. The women didn't judge her, didn't tell her she should have tried harder, or dressed better, or been more interesting. They just listened and understood and held space for her pain. One evening after the meeting, Grace pulled Athena aside. "Baby, you're not broken," she said firmly. "You're breaking free. There's a difference." The words hit Athena like a physical blow. She started crying for the first time in weeks, not sad tears, relief tears, the kind that wash away poison and leave you clean. Grace held her while she cried, and Athena felt something inside her finally let go. Meanwhile, across town, Andrew's life continued its downward spiral. The house sold fast. The money was split according to California law, but after paying off his debts to Lilac and the credit card companies, Andrew's half barely covered first and last month's rent on a studio apartment in a rough part of town. Lawrence and Associates not only fired him, but sent a letter to the state licensing board recommending his architecture license be reviewed due to professional misconduct. Other firms in the city heard about the scandal and wouldn't return his calls. He tried to reach out to Athena dozens of times. Text messages she deleted without reading. Voicemails she erased. Letters she threw away unopened. She saw him once by accident in the grocery store. He looked terrible, thin, unshaven, wearing the same wrinkled clothes she'd seen him in a week earlier. He saw her at the same moment, his face lighting up with desperate hope. "Athena!" She turned and walked away without a word, heard him calling her name behind her, but she kept walking until she couldn't hear him anymore. At the end of the third month, Athena ran into Rachel and Nia at a coffee shop downtown. They spotted her first, waving enthusiastically like nothing had happened, like they hadn't blamed her for Andrew's cheating, like they were still friends. "Athena!" Rachel called out. "Oh my God, we've been trying to call you." Nia rushed over. "You look amazing. We've been so worried about you." Athena looked at them, these women who'd called themselves her best friends for 10 years, who'd turned on her the moment she needed real support. "We were wrong," Rachel said quickly. "What we said at your house that day, we were being terrible. We're so sorry. Can we take you to lunch? Talk?" "I don't think so," Athena said calmly. "Please," Nia begged. "We miss you. We made a mistake." Athena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, you did make a mistake, and I don't forgive you." She picked up her coffee from the counter and walked past them without looking back. Behind her, she heard Rachel whisper to Nia, "She's changed." "Yeah," Nia agreed. "She's cold now." Athena smiled to herself. Not cold, free. That night, she painted for the first time in 15 years. Pulled out the old supplies she'd packed away when Andrew said the house was too nice for messy hobbies. Set up an easel by the window where the light was good. She painted her grandmother's face from memory. Her mother sober and smiling, the ocean at night, things that made her feel alive instead of empty. At midnight, Beverly called. "You still up?" "Yeah, Mom. Painting." "I knew you'd find your way back to it," her mother said softly. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you, baby, and so am I." After they hung up, Athena stood at her window looking out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, Andrew was in his motel room, probably drinking, probably crying, probably wishing he could go back and make different choices. But he couldn't. None of them could. All any of them could do was move forward. And for the first time in months, Athena felt excited about where forward might lead. Chapter 8. The Beggar at the Door. 3 months after Athena stood at her window painting at midnight, feeling excited about her future, Andrew's world began its slow, grinding collapse. It started with the bank statements. He'd managed to scrape together enough money from his half of the house sale to rent a studio apartment in a decent neighborhood. Not great, but livable. He'd applied to 17 architecture firms across the city, confident that his 12 years of experience would land him somewhere. Then Lilac struck. The first withdrawal was $52,000 from his personal savings account, the emergency fund he'd been building for 15 years. Gone in a single electronic transfer on a Tuesday morning in February. Andrew called the bank in a panic. "Sir, this was an authorized transaction," the representative said. "The account holder provided correct security information and transferred the funds to an external account." "But I didn't authorize it." "According to our records, you added a secondary user to this account 6 months ago, a Ms. Lilac Asher." Andrew's blood went cold. He remembered now, drunk one night, Lilac complaining about her bills, him stupidly giving her full account access, just in case she needed anything. He'd forgotten about it after everything exploded. "Can you reverse it?" "Not without proof of fraud, sir. And since you voluntarily added her to the account." He hung up and immediately checked his credit cards. 3 were maxed out. $31,000 in charges over the past 2 weeks. Designer clothes, first-class plane tickets to Miami, a week at a luxury resort, jewelry, all purchased by Lilac with the cards he'd given her during their affair. Andrew spent the next 4 days trying to contest the charges, file police reports, freeze his accounts. The police were sympathetic but clear. He'd given her the cards voluntarily. Unless he could prove she'd stolen them, there was nothing they could do. The credit card companies were less sympathetic. "You're responsible for all authorized users, Mr. Donald." $83,000. Gone. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived from Lawrence and Associates. "Dear Mr. Donald, you are hereby notified that you have been placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation of serious allegations of sexual harassment filed by former employee Lilac Asher." Andrew read the letter 3 times, his hands shaking. The allegations were detailed: unwanted advances, promises of promotion in exchange for sexual favors, creating a hostile work environment. Lilac had provided emails, text messages, testimony from other employees who'd witnessed inappropriate behavior. Some of it was true. The affair had happened, but she'd twisted everything, made it sound like he'd coerced her, pressured her, abused his position of power. The messages he'd sent her during their relationship, full of love and promises, now looked like evidence of a supervisor manipulating a subordinate. "A hearing will be held on March 15th. You have the right to legal representation. Until this matter is resolved, you are prohibited from entering company property or contacting any current employees." Andrew called the firm's managing partner, a man he'd worked with for 12 years. "Richard, please, this isn't what it looks like. She's lying." "Andrew, I can't discuss an ongoing investigation. Get a lawyer." The line went dead. Andrew couldn't afford a lawyer. Not anymore. He showed up to the hearing with a folder of his own evidence, messages from Lilac saying she loved him, photos of them together looking happy, proof that their relationship had been consensual. But the 3-person panel, HR, legal, and an outside consultant, looked at him with cold professional distance. "Mr. Donald, regardless of whether the relationship was initially consensual, you were Ms. Asher's direct supervisor. You had a duty to report the relationship or recuse yourself from decisions affecting her employment. You did neither. Additionally, bringing a subordinate to your marital home represents profoundly poor judgment and potential company liability. But she's claiming I harassed her. The evidence suggests a pattern of inappropriate conduct that violated company policy and created potential legal exposure for Lawrence and Associates. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Your final paycheck, minus deductions for company property you failed to return, will be mailed within 30 days. Just like that. 12 years gone. Andrew walked out of that building and sat in his car in the parking lot for 2 hours, unable to move. Unable to process that his entire career had just ended because he'd been stupid enough to sleep with his secretary. He tried other firms, called in favors, reached out to former colleagues. But word traveled fast in their industry. Within a week, everyone knew the affair, the harassment allegations, the termination. "We're not in a position to bring you on right now, Andrew. Maybe in a year or 2 when things cool down. I'm sorry, but we can't risk the liability. Have you considered a career change?" By April, Andrew had burned through what little money he had left paying bills and basic expenses. The studio apartment rent came due, and he was $800 short. He called his father. "Dad, I need help just to get through this month. I'll pay you back." "Absolutely not." Harold's voice came through ice cold. "Your mother and I discussed this. You've humiliated this family. The entire social circle knows about your sordid affair. Patricia can barely show her face at the club." "Dad, please." "You made your bed, Andrew. Now lie in it, and don't call this number again." The line went dead. Andrew tried his brother next. "David, please, I'm desperate." "You should have thought about that before you destroyed your marriage," David said, his voice tight with anger. "Emma and I have kids to think about. We can't be associated with this kind of scandal. It affects my business relationships." "I'm your brother." "You were my brother. Now you're just someone who made terrible choices and expects everyone else to clean up the mess." Click. Andrew stared at his phone, the reality sinking in. He had no one. He got evicted from the studio apartment in late April, moved his remaining possessions into his car, a few boxes of clothes, his laptop, some toiletries, spent his first night sleeping in a Walmart parking lot, waking every hour to the sound of cars and shopping carts and the crushing weight of what his life had become. During the day, he went to the library and applied for jobs. Any jobs. Architecture positions across the state, related fields, completely different careers. He applied to 247 jobs over 6 weeks. He got 3 interviews. The first company Googled his name during the interview and found an article about the harassment case. "We'll be in touch." They weren't. The second interview went well until they called Lawrence and Associates for a reference. They never called Andrew back. The third company offered him a job, drafting position, entry level, making 40% of his former salary. He accepted immediately, pathetically grateful. He started the following Monday. Made it 3 days before the company's largest client pulled their contract, citing concerns about personnel. The client's wife was friends with Patricia Donald. Andrew was let go that afternoon. It's not personal, it's business. By mid-May, Andrew had been living in his car for 3 weeks. He'd lost 15 pounds, hadn't showered properly in days. The money for food was running out. He'd pawned his watch, his wedding ring, his laptop. And every night, lying in his back seat trying to sleep, he thought about Athena, wondered if she knew what was happening to him, wondered if she cared, wondered if this crushing loneliness and desperation was a fraction of what he'd made her feel when she found him with Lilac. The answer kept him awake most nights. On a Tuesday evening in late May, after being rejected from another job and realizing he had $11 left to his name, Andrew drove across town to Athena's apartment building. He sat in his car for an hour, debating. She didn't owe him anything. She'd probably slammed the door in his face. He had no right to ask her for help or sympathy or even acknowledgement. But he had nowhere else to go. No one else who might still see him as human. He climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, each step feeling like defeat. The hallway smelled like cooking and fresh paint. Normal life. The kind of life he used to have and threw away. He knocked quietly, almost hoping she wouldn't answer. The door opened. Athena stood there in jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt, her short hair pushed back with a headband, a glass of wine in one hand. Music played softly behind her. She looked healthy, happy, alive in a way he hadn't seen in years. She looked at him and her face went completely still. Andrew. He could barely speak. His throat had closed up, tears already burning behind his eyes. Athena. Thank you for opening the door. I wasn't sure you would. She studied him without expression, taking in his weight loss, his wrinkled clothes, the desperate exhaustion written across his face. I'm not sure why I did. They stood in awkward silence. The hallway light flickered overhead, casting strange shadows. Can we talk? His voice cracked. Just for a few minutes. Please. Athena looked at him carefully, looked for manipulation, for games, for the charming liar she'd divorced, but all she saw was genuine brokenness. 5 minutes, she said, stepping aside. Andrew walked into her apartment like a man entering a church, reverently, knowing he didn't belong. His eyes moved over everything, the paintings on the walls bright and bold, plants thriving in the windows, books stacked everywhere. Her easel set up by the window, a half-finished canvas showing a woman made of fire and light. This space was so completely hers. Had nothing to do with him or their former life. It was like stepping into proof of how little he mattered now. It's beautiful, he whispered. It's very you. Sit down, Athena said, gesturing to the couch. She took the chair across from him, maintaining distance. Andrew sat on the edge of the cushion, his hands clasped between his knees. For a long moment he couldn't find words. I lost everything, he finally said. Lilac took $83,000, emptied my account, maxed my credit cards, then filed a harassment complaint that got me fired. I can't get another job. My parents disowned me, David won't speak to me. I've been living in my car for 3 weeks. I'm down to $11. I haven't eaten a real meal in 4 days. He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. I'm at absolute rock bottom, Athena. And I know I have no right to be here. I know you owe me nothing. I needed you to know that I understand now. What I had, what I destroyed. Athena watched him cry and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just vast, empty peace. Why should I care? She asked quietly. The question hit him like a physical blow. You shouldn't. You're right. You shouldn't. Then why are you here? Because you're the only person in my entire life who ever really saw me, he whispered. And maybe some part of me hoped you'd see me now and tell me I'm not completely worthless, that I can come back from this. Athena stood up and walked to her desk, pulled out a folder and handed it to him. What's this? Bank statements from the private account I opened 2 years ago. He opened the folder with shaking hands. His eyes went wide. $180,000, Athena said calmly. My grandmother's inheritance. The consulting work you never asked about. Money I've been saving while you were spending our joint funds on your mistress. Andrew stared at the numbers, his face crumbling. I'm not leaving you broke because I'm cruel, Athena continued. I'm leaving you with exactly what you gave me, nothing. You took my dignity, my trust, my sense of safety. I'm simply not giving you my resources too. She pulled out another folder. Divorce papers, filed 6 months ago, finalized last week. The house sold. Everything's divided according to the law. You got your half. What you did with it isn't my problem. Athena, please what? Her voice stayed steady, cold. Please help you? Please give you money? Please tell you everything will be okay? Please just tell me I'm not a monster, he sobbed. Please tell me I can be better than this. She looked at him for a long moment. This man she'd loved for 17 years, now broken and desperate in her living room. You're not a monster, she said quietly. You're just a man who made terrible choices and is now living with consequences. Whether you become better is entirely up to you. But it has nothing to do with me anymore. I don't know how to come back from this. That's not my problem to solve, Andrew. You need to leave. He stood slowly, defeated. At the door, he turned back one last time. Seeing you like this, strong and free, it makes me realize what I had. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. Andrew? A flicker of desperate hope crossed his face. Get help, Athena said firmly. Real help. Not for me, for yourself. Go to therapy. Find a shelter. Stop living in your car and start rebuilding. You're only 45. You have time to become someone who deserves a second chance. He nodded, wiping his eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me, she said. Just do it. She closed the door before he could say anything else. Athena walked back to her chair and sat down, listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Part of her, the smallest part, felt sorry for him. The rest of her felt powerful. She picked up her phone and texted Beverly. Andrew came by, broken and begging. I sent him away. I'm okay. Better than okay. Her mother's response came immediately. That's my warrior girl. I'm so proud of you. Want me to come over? No. I'm painting. Love you, Mom. Love you more, baby girl. You're stronger than mountains. Athena set down her phone and walked to her easel. She picked up her brush and added more gold to the woman rising from dark water, made her wings bigger, her face fiercer. Outside her window, the city lights sparkled against the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, Andrew was driving back to his car, carrying his pain and regret and the crushing weight of everything he'd destroyed. And somewhere out there, Athena's future was waiting, bright and open and entirely hers. She painted until 2 in the morning, her hands steady, her heart light, her spirit absolutely free. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of flying. Chapter 9. The Hollow Man. Andrew woke up in his car to someone pounding on the window. Sir, you need to move your vehicle. He blinked awake, his whole body aching from sleeping cramped in the back seat. A parking enforcement officer stood outside, knocking again. This is a tow-away zone. You need to leave now, or your car will be impounded. Andrew sat up, his head spinning. Cold sweat covered his skin despite the December chill. His chest felt tight, his breathing labored. "I'm leaving," he tried to say, but it came out as a wheeze. He tried to start the car, but his hands were shaking too badly to get the key in the ignition. The world tilted sideways. The officer's face swam in and out of focus. "Sir, are you okay? Sir." Everything went black. He woke up 3 hours later in a hospital bed, an IV in his arm, oxygen tubes in his nose. A doctor stood at the foot of the bed reading a chart. "Mr. Donald, I'm Dr. Singh. You're at Memorial Hospital. You collapsed from pneumonia combined with severe malnutrition and dehydration. We're admitting you for treatment." "I can't afford," Andrew started to say. "We'll worry about that later," the doctor said kindly. "Right now you need rest and medicine. You're very sick." A social worker came by that afternoon, a middle-aged woman named Teresa with gentle eyes and a clipboard. "Mr. Donald, I need to ask you some questions for our records. Do you have somewhere to stay after you're discharged?" Andrew stared at the ceiling. "My car. Family you can call? They disowned me. Friends? Gone." Teresa made notes. "Emergency contact?" Andrew's mouth opened, closed. "Athena Lucas, my ex-wife. Will she come if we call her?" "No," he said quietly, "but she's all I have." Teresa called the number Andrew gave her. He could hear the conversation from his bed. "Ms. Lucas, this is Teresa Mendez from Memorial Hospital. I'm calling about Andrew Donald." "Yes, he's here. Pneumonia and malnutrition. He's stable now, but I see. No, I understand. Would you like me to tell him anything?" "Okay. Thank you for your time." She hung up and walked back to Andrew's bed with a sympathetic expression. "She's not coming," Andrew said before Teresa could speak. "She sent flowers," Teresa said gently. "They should arrive this afternoon, and she asked me to give you a message." Andrew closed his eyes. "What is it?" "She said, 'Get well. You have a long road ahead.'" Something broke inside Andrew then. Not his heart. That had broken months ago. This was deeper. The final illusion falling away. The understanding that Athena had truly let him go. That she knew everything, had always known everything, and had found him completely wanting. The flowers arrived 2 hours later. White roses. The card read simply, "You can rebuild your life, but do it for you, not for me. A." Andrew stared at those flowers until a nurse came to check his vitals. "Beautiful," she said, adjusting his IV. "They're from my ex-wife," he said. "She must still care about you." "No," Andrew said quietly. "She cares that I'm human. That's different." He stayed in the hospital for 5 days. When he was discharged, he had nowhere to go except a men's shelter on the east side of town, the kind of place he'd driven past 1,000 times and never really seen. The shelter manager, a man named Curtis, who'd been homeless himself once, showed Andrew to a cot in a room with 30 other men. "You get 3 meals a day, hot showers, and a place to sleep," Curtis explained. "In exchange, you help with chores and you participate in our programs. Job training, addiction counseling, life skills. You put in the work, you can rebuild, but you gotta want it." Andrew looked around at the other men, all ages, all races, all with their own stories of how they'd ended up here, some reading, some sleeping, some staring at nothing. "I want it," Andrew said quietly. That first night at the shelter, Andrew lay on his narrow cot and stared at the ceiling, listening to 30 other men breathe and snore and cry in their sleep. He thought about his parents' house with its 6 bedrooms, his childhood of private schools and summer camps, the beautiful home he'd shared with Athena, the corner office at Lawrence and Associates, all of it gone, lost because he'd wanted something he didn't have instead of cherishing what he did. The next morning, Curtis told him about a men's support group that met Wednesday evenings at a community center, for men dealing with addiction, relationship destruction, trauma. Good people. Helped me get my life back. Andrew went. The group met in a circle of folding chairs in a room that smelled like coffee and regret. 12 men, all broken in different ways. A facilitator named Jerome led them through check-ins. When it was Andrew's turn, he hesitated. Then, "I'm Andrew. I destroyed my marriage by cheating on my wife. I lost my job, my family, everything. I was living in my car until I ended up in the hospital. Now I'm at a shelter trying to figure out how to be human again." "Welcome, Andrew," Jerome said warmly. "You're in the right place." Over the next weeks, Andrew attended every meeting, listened to other men's stories, slowly started to share his own. He got a therapist through the shelter's low-cost mental health program, started working through his issues, his ego, his need for validation, his fear of aging, all the twisted reasons he'd blown up his life. He wrote letters to Athena that he never sent, page after page of apologies and realizations and grief. Writing helped him process what he'd done, even if she'd never see the words. 3 months into his shelter stay, Curtis approached him. "We need volunteers for our weekend program, teaching self-defense and safety planning to women at the domestic violence shelter across town. I know you did martial arts before. You interested?" Andrew hesitated. "Would they want someone like me? I'm the kind of man they're trying to escape from." "You're the kind of man you used to be," Curtis corrected. "Now you're someone who's doing the work to change. That's who we need teaching there." Andrew started volunteering every Saturday, teaching women who'd been abused by men how to defend themselves, how to spot warning signs, how to escape safely. It was humbling and healing in equal measure. One day in April, he saw Lilac Asher. She was walking through downtown with a gray-haired man in an expensive suit, laughing that bright laugh Andrew remembered. Designer clothes, designer bag, the same routine with a different victim. She walked right past Andrew without recognizing him. To her, he'd just been another wallet, a means to an end. She probably didn't even remember his face. Andrew stood on the sidewalk watching her disappear into the crowd and felt something shift inside him. He'd thought he loved her, thought they had something special. But she'd never seen him as a person, just as an opportunity. And Athena had seen that immediately. The realization was devastating and freeing at the same time. That night in his therapy session, Andrew talked it through. "I wasn't special to her. I was convenient, easy, stupid enough to believe I was different." "And how does that make you feel?" his therapist asked. "Like I need to forgive myself," Andrew said slowly. "Not for what I did to Athena, that's unforgivable, but for being human, for being weak and scared and desperate to feel young again. I can't change what I did, but I can become someone who would never do it again." "That's growth," his therapist said gently. Andrew nodded, tears streaming down his face. He was 46 years old and starting completely over. No money, no home, no family. But for the first time in his life, he was facing himself honestly. All the ugly parts, all the weaknesses and failures and fear, and slowly, painfully, he was learning to be better. Chapter 10. The Gift of a Second Dawn. 1 year and 2 months after their divorce, Athena walked into the women's shelter on a Saturday morning and saw Andrew Donald teaching a self-defense class. She froze in the doorway. He looked different, healthy now, his weight back to normal, his hair cut neat. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a shelter volunteer t-shirt, but it was his face that had changed the most. The arrogance was gone, the self-satisfaction. Whatever had animated him before had been stripped away, leaving something quieter, humbler, real. He was demonstrating how to break someone's grip on your wrist, his voice patient and clear. "You don't need strength, you need leverage and surprise. Let me show you again." The woman he was working with, maybe 30, bruises still fading on her arms, tried the move and succeeded. Her face lit up with pride. "Perfect," Andrew said warmly. "You've got this. Remember, your safety matters more than being polite. If someone makes you uncomfortable, you get away. Every time." Athena watched from the shadows. her heart doing something complicated in her chest. This wasn't the Andrew she'd married. That man would never volunteer at a shelter, would never teach domestic violence survivors with such genuine care, would never speak about safety and boundaries with such conviction. The class ended. Women thanked Andrew as they left, some shaking his hand, one hugging him quickly. He smiled at each one, not the charming smile she remembered, but something softer, something that cost him something to give. He was packing up the equipment when he saw her. Their eyes met across the room. Andrew went completely still, a yoga mat frozen in his hands. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then he walked over slowly, like he was approaching something fragile that might break if he moved too fast. "Hello, Athena." "Hello, Andrew." Up close she could see the changes even more clearly, the lines around his eyes, the grey threading through his hair. But also something else, a clarity in his gaze that hadn't been there before, like he was actually seeing her instead of just looking at her. "I didn't know you volunteered here," he said quietly. "I teach art classes, Wednesday evenings. I'm here Saturdays. Self-defense and safety planning." They stood in uncomfortable silence. "How long have you been volunteering?" Athena asked. 7 months. Curtis, the shelter manager where I stay, he suggested it. Thought it might help me understand, well, what I'd been blind to before. "And has it?" Andrew looked at her carefully. "Yes. These women. They've helped me see things clearly for the first time in my life. What real harm looks like. What abuse actually means. How men justify terrible things to themselves." He swallowed hard. "I wasn't like their abusers. I never hit you, never threatened you, but I lied to you for 6 months. I violated your trust in the worst possible way. I made you question your worth. That's its own kind of abuse." Athena felt something crack in her chest. Not pain, but something older finally breaking free. "Can we—" Andrew gestured toward the benches outside. "Could we sit for a minute? Or I can leave if you want. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." Athena studied him, looked for manipulation, for games, for the charming liar she'd divorced, but all she saw was a broken man trying to be better. 5 minutes, she said. They walked outside together and sat on a bench under a massive oak tree, spring leaves rustling overhead. The morning sun was warm on Athena's face. Andrew didn't speak for a long time, just sat there breathing, his hands clasped between his knees. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he finally said. "I want to be clear about that. I'm not here asking for it. I don't expect it. I just wanted you to see." He gestured back at the shelter. "I'm not that man anymore. The man who destroyed the best person he ever knew." "What happened to you?" Athena asked quietly. "Rock bottom," Andrew said simply. "Complete devastation. Pneumonia, living in my car, hospital, shelter, therapy, group meetings where I had to face exactly what I'd done to you and why. It's been," he laughed without humor, "the worst and best year of my life." "Best?" "Because I'm not lying anymore," he said, looking at her directly. "Not to myself, not to anyone. I'm just Andrew, flawed and human and trying to do better than I did before. That's the best I can hope for now." Athena watched a young mother walk into the shelter with 2 small children, watched Andrew's eyes follow them with something like pain and understanding. "I live with what I did every day," he continued softly. "I see you in my mind when I close my eyes, standing in that doorway. The way your face looked when your world ended. I did that to you. I took 15 years of love and trust and threw it away for 6 months of ego and stupidity. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that I understand now, that I carry the weight of what I destroyed, and because—" His voice cracked. "Because I'm so goddamn sorry, Athena. Not sorry I got caught. Not sorry my life fell apart. Sorry that I hurt you, that I betrayed you, that I made you doubt yourself when you were perfect exactly as you were." Tears rolled down his face. He didn't wipe them away. Athena looked at this man, her former husband, her former best friend, the person who'd broken her heart so completely she thought she'd never recover. She looked at the genuine remorse in his eyes, the way he held himself smaller now, taking up less space, the humility that had replaced his arrogance. She thought about the past year, how she'd rebuilt herself from nothing, found her strength, learned to be happy alone, created a life that was entirely hers. She thought about the anger she'd carried, the rage, how it had burned hot and bright and eventually burned itself out, leaving her clean. "I forgive you, Andrew." His head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. "Not because you earned it," she continued carefully, "not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your poison anymore. I refuse to let what you did define the rest of my life. I'm free of you. And this," she gestured between them, "this is me letting you be free too." Andrew started sobbing, real, broken sobs that shook his whole body. He covered his face with his hands. Athena watched him cry and felt peaceful, lighter, like she'd been carrying a weight she didn't know was there and had finally set it down. When he could speak again, Andrew looked at her with red, swollen eyes. "Thank you. God, Athena. Thank you. We can have coffee," she said thoughtfully. "Once a month, maybe. Talk about how we're doing, maybe become friends eventually. The kind of friends who used to know each other differently." "I would like that," he whispered, "more than you know. But understand this." Athena leaned forward, her voice firm. "The woman you married is gone. She died when I found you in our bed. I'm someone different now, someone stronger, someone who knows her worth. We can be friendly, but we're never going back to what we were." "I know," Andrew said, "and you should be someone different. That woman deserved better than what I gave her. This woman," he gestured at Athena, at her confident posture and clear eyes and obvious strength. "This woman is incredible." Athena stood up. "Then start today. Be the man who honors what I taught you. Be someone who treats people better than you treated me." Andrew stood too. "I'll spend my life earning even that." They walked to the parking lot together, the morning stretching out bright and warm around them. At her car, Athena paused. "There's a coffee shop on Maple Street, next Saturday, 10 o'clock, if you want to talk." "I'll be there," Andrew said immediately. "If you're late, I'm leaving. I'll be early." Athena smiled, small, real, entirely hers. "Good." She got in her car and drove away, watching Andrew get smaller in her rearview mirror until he disappeared. That afternoon, she met Beverly for lunch at their favorite Vietnamese place. Her mother was 900 days sober now, working full-time at the library, dating a kind man named Robert who treated her well. "You seem different," Beverly observed over spring rolls. "Lighter." "I saw Andrew today," Athena said. "At the shelter." Beverly's face hardened. "Want me to go talk to him?" Athena laughed. "No, Mom. It was good, actually. He's changed, really changed. We're going to try being friends." "You sure about that, baby?" "I am." Athena squeezed her mother's hand. "I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it because I want to prove to myself that I'm healed enough to sit across from the person who hurt me most and feel nothing but peace." Beverly studied her daughter's face for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You're stronger than I ever was." "I learned from you," Athena said softly. "How to fall apart and stand back up. How to forgive yourself. How to start over." That night, Athena painted until midnight. Bold strokes of color across canvas, a woman rising from dark water into bright sky, broken but healing, scarred but beautiful. When she finally went to bed, she lay in her quiet apartment and thought about the past year, all the pain and growth and hard-won peace. She thought about Andrew, sleeping in his shelter bed, carrying his regrets and working to be better. And she thought about herself, 43 years old, divorced, starting completely over, and somehow happier than she'd been in decades. Outside her window, the city lights sparkled against the night sky, full of people and stories and second chances. Athena closed her eyes and smiled. Tomorrow was Saturday. Coffee with Andrew at 10, then art class with her women at the shelter, then dinner with her mother and Robert. A full life, a real life, a life entirely her own. She fell asleep, thinking about spring and new beginnings and the quiet gift of hard-earned forgiveness under a sky full of stars and possibility. The end.